Hey, I wanted to talk about obsessiveness and alcohol use disorder. It's come up a lot in client sessions lately, and it's come up a couple of times with other treatment professionals, sober coaches, recovery coaches, and I thought it would be important to put out there into the universe. Um, it's very common for a person with an alcohol use disorder to see life and their decisions of time and resources and energy through the lens of access to alcohol and often access to big quantities of alcohol. When someone's living in that, they might not see or perceive that obsessiveness accurately. Often the person thinks that kind of everybody else thinks of life through that same lens in terms of what celebrations to go to, what settings to go to, how to interact, what stores to go to, and living life through the lens of making decisions based on access to alcohol is unwell at best, pathological even, to use clinical language. It is a function of the alcohol use disorder and the way it interacts with building neural networks in the brain. The default decision making goes to, well, if I do this activity, or if I go here, or if I stay at work longer, I will have either more access to alcohol or less access to alcohol, or I won't be able to drink, sleep, and recover sufficiently. And it leads to decisions such as what alcohol to drink in terms of alcohol content and impact. It impacts relationships. It impacts health and mental health, all because of the obsessiveness that develops. To give an example, myself and a dear friend and professional in the industry, I'll link him below, we did a intervention and transport for a client, taking that client to treatment. And as part of getting that client to say, yes, they will go to treatment, we agreed to provide alcohol. Please know, if you don't already, that for some people, their relationship with alcohol is dependent, and an abrupt stop can be fatal. So we agreed to provide alcohol. The client's preference was a certain kind of alcohol that neither myself nor Dan was familiar with, because we have both been sober long enough that it's a newer product. I don't even know how alcohol works in my state. I don't know, what time it stops being sold. I don't know what time it begins being sold. Can it be sold on Sundays? I don't know any of those things, which is remarkable because in Florida, where I did the last of my drinking and the worst of my drinking, I knew those details precisely. I had a very planned list of places I would go to get my alcohol, so that not one place would assume that I had a problem or that all the alcohol I was buying was for me. So to go from that level of obsessiveness to not even knowing how alcohol works in this state, and I have been here this time since 2002. Dan, the other professional, was the one who actually went into the store and had to ask for help to locate the specific alcohol that the client was requesting in order to agree to go to treatment. For those who don't have an alcohol problem or aren't associated with people with an alcohol problem, this probably seems absurd. But when you're in it and you are that person, it's not absurd at all. Knowing how to go to liquor stores or grocery stores or bars in a way that minimizes the conspicuousness of the person's problem is very much part of how their daily decisions are made. And that obsessiveness is a symptom of the alcohol use disorder. And it's often a symptom that isn't identified and talked about until it's pointed out and you're educated on it being a common symptom. I'll end with this. When I was about a year sober, my AA home group at the time asked me to organize the weekly speaker meeting. And I had a built-in person to invite for that, and that was my mother, who got sober in '68 and stayed sober throughout the rest of her adult life, and died with over 30 years of sobriety. I asked her to come speak, and I knew most of her story, right? But not all the pieces. And she at one point explained how she used to go to the store to get her wine, and instead of handing the cash, mind you, this was before debit cards, instead of handing the cash to the cashier, she would put it on the counter and slide it to them so that the cashier wouldn't see how much she was shaking. And in that moment of my mother's share, I had the weirdest and most bittersweet connection with her, because I did the same thing. This is one way the obsessiveness about alcohol and hiding the extent of the alcohol problem becomes so consuming, no pun intended, in a person's life when their alcohol use disorder is untreated. So I'm going to try to come up with a PDF or a resource to help you with this. In the meantime, I do have a link to a free workbook on how to manage stress and stop drinking. You can check that out in my bio, link tree, or description. And thanks for stopping by.